baby, right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Thursday edition. Chasing that paper, presented by VegasInsider.com. Coming off a 3-1 day. Yesterday was a Kyrie Irving rebound. Short of the 4-0 sweep. I'll take it 3-1 any day of the week. So we'll try to repeat that success here on today's show. And it's the first Thursday we've had a Thursday night football game in a very long time. I miss it already. Couldn't they have given us Colts versus Texans? I'd watch every second of that game. Let's bring in my co-host for the day, the second most provocative man in all of sports betting, Iain MacMillan. I think that's his name. Is it MacMillan? That's your last name?
MacMillan, Joe. It's MacMillan.
MacMillan. And happy belated birthday, Ian. I believe your birthday was, a week and a half ago?
Yep, I'm 30 now. I'm an old man. Put me in a home.
I'm almost 40, buddy, so no need to be complaining. So full disclosure, Ian, we don't keep secrets here at Chasing That Paper. Prior to coming on air this morning, I vomited. I did that thing. I'm feeling better now. Thank you for your concern. But I don't know if you've ever done that thing where you've taken a multivitamin on an empty stomach, start to feel a little queasy. 10 minutes, 12 minutes later. So it was an unfortunate incident. But, we like to be honest with our audience. You don't get this type of discussion over at ESPN, okay? So a lot to get into here today. 7 total bets. Going to be talking a little bit of UFC, what we can look forward to in 2023. The second half of the program, and of course, viewer best bets. We will wrap the show up with that. But guys, let's get right into the action. Let's start things off with the best game of the night in the NBA. We have the Boston Celtics in Dallas to take on the Mavericks. Give me the home dog. Hoof, 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 hoof. The Mavericks coming in plus 3 points. So dig into the stats for this one, guys. Some major statistical advantages. Hoof, hoof, hoof. Absolutely love it. These teams have been miles apart offensively lately, with Dallas at second in EFG percentage and Boston at 24th over the last 10 games. Also in this span, 5th versus 21st in opponent EFG in favor of Dallas. They're getting to the line more, they're turning it over less, and they're doing a much better job at defending the three-point shot. This is the hottest Dallas has been all season. Longest win streak of the season at 7. They're also much better on their home court, where they're 15-5. This is the first time all season they've been a home underdog. We're seeing some issues on the road here for the Celtics. I pointed this out ahead of their most recent game versus the OKC Thunder. Get their ass absolutely handed to them in that game. They now have 4 double-digit losses in their last 5 road games. One that wasn't was an overtime win. They barely squeaked by the Lakers. And Dallas is a team that plays up to the competition. Check out their game logs. Wins this season versus Denver, Phoenix, Golden State, Brooklyn, Memphis. Recent 1-point losses to Cleveland and Milwaukee. So we should absolutely expect them to show up versus the suddenly struggling Boston Celtics. Give me the Mavs. Plus 3. All right, Ian, over to college hoops. What are we looking at first?
Yes, college basketball. Went 2-0 last night in college basketball, so let's keep the momentum going. I got 2 picks for the show today, starting with a little Big Ten action. Going to look at Ohio State against Purdue.
Yes.
Purdue, the number 1 ranked team in the country, but the Ohio State University are 1.5-point favorites at home tonight, and that's the way I'm going to go. Give me the Buckeyes. Minus 1.5 here, and a big reason why is because they're playing on their home court. They have been much better at home this season. Their effective field goal percentage goes up from 51.9% on the road up to 58.3% at home. That's a difference of 6.4%. And their opponent effective field goal percentage drops from 48.2% on the road all the way down to 41.1% when Ohio State's playing at home. That is a difference of 7.1%. Also, I think Purdue might be a little bit of a fraudulent number 1 team. They are a good team. I'm not going to take that away from them, but I certainly wouldn't call them the best team in the country. For example, they're outside the top 100 in effective field goal percentage, outside the top 10 in average scoring margin, where they actually rank below Ohio State in that stat. And they also don't force turnovers, 327th in opponent turnover rate. So I'm not totally sold on this Purdue team. I think it's a bit of a sell high spot on them. And also, I think Ohio State's going to find some success down low. 55.8% of the points scored by Ohio State this season comes from 2-point range. That's a 62nd highest rate in the country. Now they take on a Purdue team who allows 55.2% of the points scored against them coming from down low, which is 301st in the country. So I think Ohio State can pound it down low. Give me the Buckeyes, -1.5 at home tonight.
The Buckeyes, baby, the Ohio State University. Okay, to the NBA, guys. Let's fade the Houston Rockets. I'm going to take them to go under their team total, 112 points, as they host the Utah Jazz tonight. So this team is really struggling offensively. They've actually gone under this number, 112, in 12 of their last 14 games, average of 106.6 in this span, where they are 28th in EFG shooting percentage. And the offense has specifically really struggled in this spot, which is the second game of a back-to-back. Totals of 105, 93, a 118, which is the outlier. They followed that with 101 and 102. So struggling to put up points on no rest here. And the Jazz defense are going to make them work. Ugly numbers overall for the Jazz defense, if we're being completely fair. That perhaps gets evened out by the patheticness of the Rockets offense. But the Jazz do make teams work to get shots up. They're allowing the 6 fewest shots per game over the last 10 games. They also force a lot of turnovers, so expect a lot of empty possessions for the offensively challenged Houston Rockets under 112 points. Ian, back to college hoops. What do you got?
Next up, I'm looking at the West Coast matchup here, the Battle of Los Angeles between USC and UCLA, and I will take the points with the Trojans, plus 11.5 for a little Pac-12 action tonight. Biggest reason why I like USC in the spot is their interior defense. UCLA hardly ever shoots the 3-ball. In fact, 73.8% of their shots come from down low. That's the 8th highest rate in all of college basketball. But that's going to play right into USC's hand because their biggest strength on their entire team is their interior defense. They rank 4th in the country in opponent 2-point field goal percentage, keeping teams to shooting just 41.4% from down low. I talked about earlier about how much better Ohio State is at home. Well, USC is actually slightly better on the road so far this season. Their effective field goal percentage goes up by 0.5% when playing on the road, and the rebounding rate goes up by 7.5% on the road compared to at home. And just like how I talked about Purdue, I think it's a little bit of a sell high spot on them. I also think it's a sell high spot on UCLA. They've won 10 straight games, but I think it was Washington State they only beat by a point. I haven't been super impressed by them, but people are going to see their record. They're going to see their win streak, and I think it's causing them to be a little bit overvalued in the betting market. So not only do I like USC plus 11.5, but if you want a big underdog to sprinkle on tonight, I don't mind USC money line. I might put a little sprinkle on that myself. So give me the Trojans tonight, plus 11.5 against the Bruins.
Okay, favorite NBA player prop. And I had a few good ones to choose from, but I've settled on Paolo Banchero to go under his point total of 21.5 points with the Memphis Grizzlies in town. So this is the second game of a back-to-back for both of the teams, and this is a spot where Paolo has really struggled. His numbers do take a hit in the second game of a back-to-back. He's averaging about 3.2 fewer points. His shooting percentage is way down. Specifically, he's shooting 27.8% from 3 in this spot. And this is a tough matchup for him tonight versus a Grizzlies team that is playing elite-level defense. Over the last 10 games, they're ranked first in opponent EFG shooting percentage. They're second in points allowed in this span. Also second in points allowed in the paint, where Paolo scores about 41% of his points, so don't expect too many easy ones tonight. He's actually stayed under this number in 4 of his last 5 games, expected to go to 5 out of his last 6. Give me Paolo Banchero under 21.5 points. All right, Ian, we move over to the ice. What's your best bet in the NHL?
Yeah, it might be the worst game on the board tonight, but I think it's a pretty good matchup for a lot of goals. So the toilet bowl between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Arizona Coyotes, I'll take over 6. The juice I got on the minus 108 still available out there. Both teams are all offense, no defense, especially as of late. Over their last 10 games, the Coyotes' average combined goals scored in their games is 6.83. The Flyers have an even higher mark in average combined goals scored in their games over their last 10, 6.94, both well over the set total of 6 tonight. And if you dive a little bit deeper into it, you kind of figure out why. Not only are they absolutely terrible defensively, but their shooting has been pretty good. 5th and 12th in shooting percentage over their last 10 games. The Flyers been shooting very well recently. And also, that's going to come up big tonight because both goalies have struggled. Let me see if I can pronounce this guy's name. Karel Vejmelka.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
That?
You nailed it.
The pride of Czechia. Joe, I recently learned that Czech Republic we're now calling Czechia. He has not played well recently. Since December, or in December, he has a save percentage of .897. He's played one game already in January, save percentage of .865. And Carter Hart, who started off the season extremely hot, hasn't been so hot as of late. In the month of December, he had a save percentage of just .900. So sharp shooting, bad goaltending, all offense, no defense. Give me the over in tonight's game between the Flyers and Coyotes.
All right, my best bet for the NHL, another good spot for scoring. Give me over 6.5 goals tonight in New Jersey with the Devils playing host to the St. Louis Blues. This is a great matchup for the Devils offense. Last 10 games, New Jersey is top 8 in expected goals for and high danger chances for. St. Louis in the bottom 7 in each of those categories defensively. Binnington, the shame of Richmond Hill, Ontario, Canada, expected to be between the pipes for the Blues. This guy's getting absolutely eviscerated lately. He's allowed 4 or more goals in 4 of his last 5 games. Meanwhile, on the other side here, New Jersey's defense falling off a little bit, near the bottom of the league in expected goals allowed and high danger chances allowed over the last 10 games. Second game of a back-to-back for them. So their backup goalie, Mackenzie Blackwood, the shame of Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, expected to be between the pipes. And this guy is prone to some ugly performances, as evidenced by his .888 save percentage. 4 goals allowed in his last 2 starts. He got yanked in one of those games. And check out this trend for the St. Louis Blues. A 12-1 road over tear for St. Louis. Expect that pattern to continue tonight in beautiful New Jersey. I love doing that.
Joe, one thing that we didn't talk about today, do you know what today is the return of? It's a big day in the sports world that not enough people are talking about.
I do not.
The return of the PGA Tour, Century Tournament of Champions in Hawaii tees off here in a few hours. Joe, who's your pick to win?
I like Tony Finau.
Nice.
Who do you take?
I like it. I'm on John Rahm. I'm on the favorite. I'm eating the chocolate.
John Rahm. What's your best overall bet for the tournament, though?
Tom Kim, the pride of South Korea, who's going to become the Korean Tiger Woods. You just watch. He has exploded onto the scene recently. I like him to finish in the top 10. I think it's like plus 140 or plus 170. So that's my best bet for the tournament.
Yeah, I like those top 10s, top 20s. Yeah. Make the cut type of bets. Okay, guys, if you're looking to bet a little PGA or tail any of the bets Ian and I just gave out, I recommend placing your action over at BetMGM. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Kick off your day of sports betting with the king of sportsbooks. Sign up with BetMGM using bonus code VIBONUS. And your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. That's VIBONUS, all one word, no spaces. And your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. You must be 21 or older. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. It's good. All right. Let's talk a little UFC here, Ian. I'll touch on this
Sure.
Dana White thing quickly. You know, I'm not going to get up here and lecture Dana White or the UFC. I have the same opinion that any decent person has. You don't put your hands on a woman, especially your wife. I've been slapped. I've been punched with a closed fist by a woman. You simply walk away. I'm sure Ian's been attacked by multiple women in his life. You walk away from that. So who knows what's going to come of this? You know, the PR machine is fully in motion. You know, Dana White got ahead of this and he made the statement and he took full accountability like you do. Next up, we're going to hear about Dana will go do some type of sensitivity training and go on a paid suspension or something like that. Maybe, but yeah, just a complete and total embarrassment. The kind of ironic thing about this, and a few people have touched on this, is Dana White leading up to this thing happening, they were heavily promoting this new Power Slap League. Have you guys seen this? It's like a new, you get these guys and girls and they slap each other across the face as hard as they can, and if you make the other person, if you knock the other person out, I guess you essentially win. But the optics of this are completely horrible. I guess you just got to scrap that altogether. Who's the audience for that, by the way? You can see a 5-second clip of that on Instagram or Twitter, and that's all you need to see. So yeah, just some silliness here from Dana White and the UFC. So maybe time for Dana to go away for a little bit. We'll see what the UFC does. But it's going to be a big year, maybe the biggest in the history of the UFC. A lot of big fights to make here. They haven't really announced any yet, but I wanted to go through my list of the top 5 fights that the UFC needs to make here in 2023. We'll get Ian to chime in if he wants and maybe weigh in with some predictions. So the 5th biggest fight that the UFC needs to make is Chimaev versus Colby Covington in the UFC's welterweight division. I believe Chimaev, I think his career is being mismanaged. You know, this guy's been promoted as the next big thing for about 3 years now. And meanwhile, he's only fought one championship-level fighter, Gilbert Burns, and it was a pretty close fight. Meanwhile, Covington may be one of the better fighters in the UFC without a title around their waist. So I don't know what the holdup is in making that fight. So if Covington doesn't want to fight him, give the fight to Bilal Muhammad. And that fight can be the next contender for the 4th most important fight the UFC needs to make here. The Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman rematch would actually be the 3rd fight between these guys for the welterweight title. Of course, we saw what happened in their most recent fight. Usman was cruising to a victory, then got his head kicked off in the 5th round. So Edwards pulled off a big upset. He is the new champion. I think Usman will defeat him in a 3rd fight. That fight is rumored to take place potentially in London in March, where they do have a pay-per-view scheduled. The 3rd most important fight that the UFC needs to make is Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2 for the middleweight title. Similar storyline, kind of. Well, not as much as the Edwards-Usman 2nd fight. You know, it looked like Adesanya was well on his way to a victory. Then in the 5th round, late in the fight, Pereira dug deep, and he ended up getting the KO victory. So this is the best storyline and the best rivalry in all of the UFC. You know, you go back to their kickboxing matches, and Adesanya, recognized as one of the most popular fighters, he just can't get over the hump against this guy, Pereira. So yeah, you got to do the immediate rematch there. The 2nd biggest fight. Now we're talking big, massive, historic fights. Can John Jones come back? We've been talking about his move up to heavyweight for years now. This guy's been on the shelf for 3 years now. And apparently there's rumors that he's going to step in, and as he should. He's recognized as the GOAT by many people, not me. I give that distinction to George St. Pierre, maybe a bit biased as a Canadian here. But John Jones, Francis Ngannou, the heavyweight champion, recognized as the baddest man in the world. He's been on the shelf for about a year. So that's a huge fight. In the UFC, they fail time and time again at putting together big fights. You got to get this super fight together, guys. This is a fight that people absolutely want to see and need to see. And the fight that they have to make here in 2023, of course, it involves Conor McGregor. This guy talks so much shit. He's been talking. He's a year and a half removed from his last fight. Of course, he had a pretty bad injury, so maybe a bit of a decent excuse there. But you absolutely have to do the Conor McGregor-Nate Diaz rubber match, the third fight between these guys. Of course, we know the big storyline in that one. Diaz upset him in the first fight. McGregor bounced back at the decision victory in the follow-up to that. But we're running out of time to do this. With each passing fight, these guys are losing more and more credibility. McGregor with kind of a couple ugly losses here. What was his most recent impressive win in the UFC? You want to give him credit for the Donald Cerrone one? I don't know about that. You'd have to go back to 2015, his victory over Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205. Meanwhile, whenever Diaz fights anyone good, he doesn't look especially good. So he's getting a bit older, 37 years old. I know Diaz isn't under contract with the UFC right now, but I'm willing to bet if they made that fight, it would sell the most pay-per-views in the history of the sport. So, Ian, what do you think of my little list here for the biggest fights? So a lot of obvious ones, if we're being fair, but what do you think of my list there? Do you disagree with any of them?
No, I like the list. I think those are probably the 5 most obvious ones. I'd put John Jones at number 1 because I want to see John Jones lose, and I think Francis Ngannou. I actually think betting odds are out for that fight, and I think Francis Ngannou is set as the favorite. So I'm sick of John Jones. He's one of my least favorite fighters of all time, one of my least favorite people inside the UFC, only to recently be surpassed by Dana White. So I want to see that fight, and I just don't. I don't care as much about Conor McGregor anymore. Maybe I will if he gets a fight schedule and is leading up to it, but he's another guy that just gets into shenanigans. He's on social media all the time, posting all these things without actually fighting. I don't care as much about Conor McGregor. I mean, I'll watch the fight. I'll probably get excited for it, but I'd put John Jones, Francis Ngannou as my number 1. But I have another one that you didn't list, Joe, that I'm going to throw at you. A lot of yours were rematches. This would also be a trilogy fight. Let's talk the ladies. Amanda Nunes against Valentina Shevchenko. Let's get the trilogy fight going there. For those who don't know, these two ladies have already fought twice before. Amanda Nunes won both of them by very, very slim decisions. First one was a unanimous decision, but it still could have gone either way. Second one was actually a split decision. Since then, Valentina Shevchenko went down in weight and dominated. I think it's now about time that we see the trilogy of that fight, because we have to do it now before it's too late, because Nunes has already lost her belt. She went back and won it again. And then Valentina barely or almost lost her last fight against Talia Santos. She won by split decision. So if you want to find out who the true women's GOAT is, I think now is the time to do it before these two ladies get too far past their prime. So give me the trilogy fight between Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, it's all about timing with a lot of these fights, right? And it's funny to me, the Adesanya Pereira 2 fight, shouldn't that be a foregone conclusion that that's just going to be the fight? That it's not really being talked about like that's the case. Like Adesanya, of course he deserves an immediate rematch for the belt that he must have defended, 5 or 6 times. So.
I would say the issue with that, and maybe this isn't right, but I think it kind of feels like he's lost 3 times. I know 2 of those fights were kickboxing, so really in MMA he's only 0-1. But it does kind of feel like it wouldn't even be. It feels like it would be what's a one pass trilogy? It'd be like the 4th time they fought. Obviously different sport, but it kind of does feel like that.
Yeah, there's some gray area there. People say one of the decisions in one of the kickboxing matches Adesanya deserved, and people point to the time that he got knocked out. They were saying he was actually winning that kickboxing match up until that point. But it doesn't matter how you're doing up until that point if you get your head punched off, right? So, yeah, it should be a big year in 2023 for the UFC. They got to make some of these big fights. And for the John Jones, too much time on the shelf. I know ring rust affects people differently. It's the same thing with Conor McGregor. You have to be a full-time fighter You can't be taking a year and a half off, 2 years off. You go fight Floyd Mayweather, you lose it. These are the prime years of these athletes' careers. And I know people peak at different points, but I think the big thing with McGregor, and I know me and you used to both be super fans of his, maybe not the case anymore. He used to be able to beat people before they even stepped in the octagon together. Yes. Such a mental edge. Specifically, the Jose Aldo fight. As we remember, he beat him in 8 seconds, and the Eddie Alvarez fight as well. Eddie Alvarez was way too concerned about the mental warfare in the fight, and you can tell. Go back. I think the fight's on YouTube. Watch the face-off between them when they're both in the octagon, and the referee is reading them the rules of the fight or whatever. Alvarez can't even look him in the eye. So they lost those fights. Yeah, he doesn't scare anyone anymore. Don't make McGregor fight Michael Chandler. That won't end well for McGregor, who's lost that touch. And a comment from the live chat says, McGregor will never win another fight in the UFC again. You might be right about that. When you got $500 million or whatever in the bank, I do think it makes it just a little bit easier to quit when your back is up against the wall. So yeah, that's our UFC talk. We're going to have a lot of UFC talks here in 2023. Like I said, it's going to be a big year for the organization. Jake Paul signing with the PFL, apparently. So yeah, to see how that goes. Hopefully he'll fight a man his age and in his weight class. No, it'd be funny if they brought in an old boxer for Jake Paul to fight in an MMA fight, because that's what he does in boxing. He fights the old MMA fighters. No? That'd be funny, I think. Should do it just to kind of troll people. Okay, guys, let me tell you a little bit about the Vegas Insider app. Vegas Insider app gives you all the major sports betting odds at your fingertips, along with picks and expert breakdowns. You can shop for the best odds, find props, features, and plenty more with the app. If you want more Vegas Insider content like our shows, videos, and podcasts, you can find it all on the app in the media section. Download the Vegas Insider app on Apple and Android. Bet better with the Vegas Insider app. Okay, we put a poll up on the Vegas Insider Twitter feed asking people to weigh in on the game of the night. You know, I usually like to be on the other side of the public. But the public, in this case, the Vegas Insider audience, is with me on Mavs +3 here, so I wish us all luck. Anyone who's tailing me on that one, hopefully Luka can go off and score 75 points tonight. The way things have been going in the NBA, wouldn't be overly shocked. You're watching that one tonight with no Thursday night football. Okay, viewer picks here. We got a handful of them. I know, Ian, you got to take off here at some point. Feel free to jet whenever you have to. Matty Puppy Sports, he likes James Madison -11.5 versus Texas State. Matty Puppy, a big trends guy, and all the trends pointing to James Madison, 4-0 ATS in their last 4 home games, 7-1 overall, and 5-1 after a straight-up win. Texas State here, 1-6 ATS in their last 7 overall, 0-4 ATS in their last 4 games versus a team with a winning percentage above 600. Good luck, Matty Puppy Sports, on James Madison. And we keep rolling here. Rangers 3-way puck line here, so they got to win in regulation. Habs are in fade territory. Yeah, the Montreal Canadiens, they stink. It's weird when they made the Stanley Cup Finals a couple of years ago. They're 1-9 in their last 10, being outscored by an average of 2.8 goals per game. They're 31st in Corsi percentage in that span. Rangers 10-2-1 run right now. Over the last 2.5 weeks, ranked 12th in Corsi percentage. This line is a gift. I don't like the Rangers, but I'll wish them good luck with that. Good luck.
I'll add to that one really quick before I jump out here, Joe. Rangers much better on the road as well. Barely winning at home. Extremely good record on the road. I like that pick a lot. And with that, Joe, I got to head to court. Goodbye.
All right. Ian's got a court appearance for something he claims he is innocent for. So he's going to defend himself. He's not going to waste money on a lawyer. So we wish Ian good luck in court today. And we get back into the viewer picks. St. Louis Blues team total. I hope this hits because I'm on the full game over here. The Blues over 2.5. This is from Nathan Schreckengost. -120 on this one. Devils quietly on a big slide at home, losing 7 straight at the house. Giving up 3+ in 6 of those last 7. Backup goalie in net too, as we discussed in my breakdown, and the Blues have been hot offensively on the road. As we discussed, 12 of their last 13 road games have gone over, so we wish Nathan good luck with that one. Correlates to mine a little bit. Next up, what do we got? Rutgers! The great blue-collar Rutgers University, -4.5 versus Maryland, who's coming off a huge loss to Michigan by way of the center position. Okay, I don't totally know what he means by that. Terps shot 26.5%. Rutgers too big, and the Terps faced a similar matchup versus another top-scoring center. Rutgers coming off a big win of the season on the road. Their biggest win, yeah. So we wish our guy good luck with Rutgers, -4.5. All these names in that breakdown, I haven't heard of any of these guys. As you guys probably know, a bit of a casual when it comes to college hoops. We'll get more into it when we get to March Madness time. That is for sure. Okay, guys, just now time for today's Handicapper Heat Check presented by VegasInsider.com. Your home for the best expert picks in the business since 1997. Today's featured expert is Alex Smart, who went 3-0 in the NBA last night and leads all Vegas Insider college hoops experts this season. Big profits from him. Bill Marzano is also on a hot streak on the ice, going 7-2 in his last 9 picks. ASA continued their run with a 12-2 all-sports win streak in 2023. Visit VegasInsider.com/picks for tonight's best bets. That's your Handicapper Heat Check. Stay hot, bettors. All right, that does it for today's show. Very lively live chat today. That's nice to see. Guys, make sure you are checking out the Vegas Insider YouTube channel. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Lots of great content on there right now to get you set for the College Football National Championship game and, of course, NFL Week 18, which can be a little tricky. And, of course, a lot of question marks regards to motivation, who's out and who's in and whatnot, but we'll try to help you navigate it all. So make sure you're checking out that content there. Make sure you're checking us out again tomorrow here on Chasing That Paper. Ian will be back with me. We'll have our best bets for NFL Week 18. That does it for today. Best of luck with your bets tonight, unless you are fading us. Good luck to Ian in court today. And as always, keep chasing that paper. Woo!